What's going on, everybody? And what's going on, folks? My name is David, and I'm your legendary host of the Deconstructing Topic podcast, where we grab a topic and we just like deconstruct it so we can learn, we could do something about it. We could be like, wow, I did not know that. And, that's what the Deconstructing Topic podcast is. It's definitely an education. It's like, when sometimes in life you need something and you don't know what else you need to fulfill your mind with knowledge. You need inspiration. You need a little bit of everything. You want to kind of like, let me wake up to learn something. See, this is what my podcast brings. And that's why I always said, hey, helping me is helping you. And once again, once you listen to this podcast, hit the like, share. Today we got a good one. Today I'm doing a little Black History Month with a little bit of Puerto Rican flavor. Ooh, did I catch your attention? Yes, I did. Let's go. Oh, it's the Deconstructing Topic podcast once again. I'm the legendary host of this legendary podcast. Please feel free that when you're listening to this, you're going to be like, hey, no matter whether you're from the Black community, Puerto Rican, the whole Latino, anywhere you're listening to, gather your family, gather everybody, and be like, oh man, what are we learning? What kind of twist? Or it's not even a twist. The kind of good education that I'm going to learn. That is Black History Month here in the United States in the month of February. And we'll touch that as well. Because shout out, and I will be most likely doing a podcast. Shout out to the father of it's considered Black History Month, but it's actually something that started back in the 1920s. I believe it was 1926 or somewhere, the Negro History Week. I want people to listen that I said Negro History Week. It is something that back then, it's the word what they use, and it was part of the Association of Study of African American Life History, and he is the father of Black history, Carter Woodson. So shout out to Carter Woodson, because once again, I'm one to say is this, right? Some people are people that might say, oh, but why we only get 1 month and all that, Black history is American history and so on. And I said, look, I'm all for that. And in the heels of the Super Bowl, where the Puerto Rican artist, Bad Bunny entertainer, was doing his thing, he got attention. I always say it's this. Seize the moment or wherever the attention is, because at the end, look, listen, there's controversy is better than no controversy, right? I think there was a famous wrestling manager that said that controversy is better than no controversy because controversy creates cash. And I'm not saying that this is controversial topic or anything like that, but what I'm saying is this, that whether it's good or bad attention, it's still attention instead of no attention, you understand? So we're going to bring this up together. I'm not going to try to Puerto Ricanize the Black History Month, because it is belong to that, in that spectrum, but I will add a little bit of flavor. And I'm not here to do the Fat Joe and some of these Puerto Rican grifters out there who want to fight with the Black community about who started hip-hop and why Puerto Ricans don't get that much shot and all that. And I'm like, you know what? Relax. You know what happened in the last 2 years? Again, and I'm just bringing this up in the halftime show in the last 2 years. You had a hip-hop artist, Kendrick, last year. And then this year you had a Puerto Rican, Bad Bunny. What I'm saying to you is that relax. There's enough room for everybody. And Fat Joe, relax. Stop Puerto Ricanize everything that, we deserve more attention and more that we find in hip hop. I'm like, look, listen, that's another different topic. But sometimes those grifters out there in my community, they even, some of these grifters will even turn Asian Heritage Month to Puerto Rican Heritage Month. They'll be like, well, because of Puerto Ricans, there would be no Chinese food. I'm like, really relax. Anyways, let's get to the show. We are talking about none other than Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. That's correct. Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. You probably be like, Schomburg? Doesn't sound like a typical Spanish. No. So let me tell you something. Arturo Alfonso was born in Puerto Rico back in the 1870s and so on. And look, listen, back then, you have to understand, there was a lot of things going on, especially with technology. And when I say technology, there were certain things that was happening, right? So people would travel across the globe. And then, my understanding is that, he was a son of a Puerto Rican merchant. who just happened to have German descent, and Afro-American, who happen to have, some of that European, all that connection. Because, again, those powers that be at that time, they were just all over the place trying to so-called conquer. So we got a little bit of the Danish, Netherlands, Spanish, German, whatever. You already know. You get the idea. But Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, to why he's in this conversation with Black History Month, and some call him, he's part of the, again, we're going to give a shout out to Carter Woodson. That's for sure. But we always want to acknowledge that the Puerto Rican and the Black connection has been long ways from back in the days. And one of the things that I always say is that wherever the Black community goes, the Puerto Rican community goes, and vice versa. And that's why we got to coexist somewhere. I think that we got to bring more of this, let's say my podcast, and more of other things where we could connect, because there's a deep connection. And I'm going to say this. So I'll give you like a brief recap, because we definitely going to talk about Arturo Alfonso Schomburg and what his work did with the Black History Month. I actually ordered a shirt. I try to get the shirt as independent merchant as I can, those who have ties to it. So hopefully I'll get it. I'll be representing some couple of events. Again, in my perspective, I say Puerto Rican, we are reaping the benefits that now we got a little bit of attention from the Super Bowl. Let's educate the masses. And one thing that we go back to, why the Puerto Rican and the Black community, they're so tight, right? Now, I don't want to make an argument, but I could just say is this. If you look at these groups, what they call marginalized groups, Latinos, let's say Mexican, Dominicans, South American, Central American, Puerto Ricans obviously have been the closest to the Black community, because one of the things is that United States and the Jones Act in 1917 provided Puerto Ricans to become citizens. Sadly, the caveat to that is that, hey, we're going to get citizen, but we need 30,000 of your sons to go out there on World War I and fight for on behalf of whatever it is of the Imperial United States. Basically, that's what it came down to. And there was that little combination of Operation Bootstrap. So we got there. Now, keep in mind that the marginalized groups back then in the 1910s, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s was a little bit different, because the Black community, not only you had the Black community, you had the Italian, the Irish, Puerto Rican, obviously, a little bit of the Mexicans coming in, trickling after the Mexican Revolution in I think in the early 1900s, and even, I think, a little bit after. And you had them, but for some reason, I'm going to go on a limb. And I'm going to say that the Black community gravitated to the Puerto Ricans, because you got to keep in mind this, right? What is Black? People are going to be like, well, what is Black? Is there a definition to it? Sure. But you already know the skin color is the primary thing there. And if you look at the Black community, if you look at all these communities I just mentioned, the only community or the group of people that seem they're a little as close to our skin color, and we do have Black Puerto Ricans. A little bit of darker side, beautiful skin. Whew. You already know, Black don't crack many times. My mother is dark skinned and she don't crack at all. Jeez, God bless my mother out there. But I'm just saying, a little bit on the lighter side, she's gonna kind of crack. But anyways, you get the gist, you understand? And then we got that thing where there's that relation, like, okay. And then the music, there was all that. So that's where the Black and Puerto Rican community stood. So to give you that little background, where Arturo Alfonso Schomburg comes in with Carter Woodson. These are both figures that basically the premise of Black History Month is that, and I'll give you an example. Brother Malcolm X, the famous speech, when he said, your last name could have been Smith, Power, or Jones, basically was a speech leading to, what is your name? What is your last name? What is your name? Especially those slaves coming from Africa, where it's like, oh, okay, we don't know about history. Oh, so since you guys don't know about your histories, sadly, really just got burned. You already know, because sometimes, hey, the person with power tends to erase history. Sometimes I always tell my community, for those white folks out there listening to, don't get offended, but For the most part, if you don't know your history, the white man's going to create it for you. I'll be straight up. So basically, Arturo Alfonso Schomburg and Carter Woodson, these are beautiful people that took their time and read. See, the internet didn't exist back then. We got the internet. If the internet existed back then, maybe it did. Who knows? But I'm just saying, this individuals would have been digging. So it was a little bit harder to dig the history. And their purpose is that, no, we do have a history. We do. There is, just because my last name is Woodson, might come from, European heritage or something to that effect, Schomburg. We do have our roots rooted to Africa and other parts of the world. It's a beautiful history. Black history is beautiful history. Latino community or Latino history month, Hispanic Heritage Month is beautiful history. It's human history. But the thing is that people be like, well, history is history and this happened and other. No. Again, when the conquerors decide to do these things and forget about your history and erase it, we need to put in that work. And that's where Arturo Alfonso Schomburg comes in. Now, I believe they were about the same age, but Schomburg passed away. We do have what they call the Harlem Research Black Culture in Harlem, Malcolm X Boulevard, if I'm not mistaken. And Schomburg came here. So he was born in Puerto Rico once again. And I apologize that sometimes I'm trying to tackle a little bit of everything, and I'm not trying to be all over the place. But I want to sometimes drop a little background so we could understand where we at and why this is important. Because I always said, Black History Month, by all means. There's some people that are going to knock it, whatever. But hey, listen, at the end of the day, it ain't like this country just decided, let's give you guys a little bone here. Be happy. No, there's people that put in work. Carter Woodson put in work. Lots of work, lots of time, a lot of studies. So there's Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. But once again, credit is due. But I want to just remind people, at least not just remind people, but the connection is deep. Like the Black and the Puerto Rican community is not about just hip hop. You bring in DJ Kool Herc, Jamaican descent, or so on and so forth. Yeah, we could go on and on. But again, it's deeper connection. And with Schomburg coming in at a young age, it sometimes I feel like, as me coming down here or coming from Puerto Rico at a young age, I saw things different. I saw things from the outside in. And I also was one that gravitated to our history because my history with the Black community, and I gravitated to help the Black community because sometimes, sadly, and I'll be straight up, there are those people who open the door because you, a little bit lighter. That's just the truth. Whether you're in the left, right, whatever it is, progressive, conservative, white folks tend to still don't know how to act when it comes to people of color. You understand? But they would be okay if you're lighter. You see what I'm saying? So I'm one to say, listen, I get it. But so I saw that in the system when I came to the United States. Like, wow, a lot of the Black community, Black sisters and young brothers, they are on drugs. Something's going on. And it's not that it feels. You could just see that something just seemed to be designed to be against them. And I'm living in New York City. New York City is one of the more liberal Democrat cities. And again, I'm just stating the facts. But it seems that Black people are still in the bottom. But we need to fix that. We need to connect all the connections because we all had each other. And Schomburg coming in, doing his thing. And look, he worked in banks, if I'm not mistaken. But he put in that work. Especially if you are in the African diaspora, which is those Black communities that are here that still felt like, we might not belong here. But you see, that's the thing where these individuals, like, if you're fitting laws because you feel like you're in this country, but because you don't know exactly your history, then these two individuals come in and they put in that work. Trust me, there's a lot of Black historians, Puerto Rican, Mexican, trust me, they put a lot of work. A lot of Black historians put a lot of work so you can understand where you come from. Because if you don't know where you come from, guess what? Again, they're going to tell you where you come from. They're going to tell you this is your home. And rightfully so. We live in America. Rightfully so. This is your home. United States of America. Rightfully so. But don't forget the roots. Many people in this country, whether you're Irish descent, Italian descent, Polish, Italian, African, Chinese, there's a lot of people that are born here that are probably to be American, but they would not forget the elders, and they will not forget where they came from. Because a lot of times you are judged by where you came from and by your background or whatever it is that you ancestors are born. So it's one of those things that, once again, a lot of people tend to, when it comes to Black History Month, listen, Carter Woodson put in work. Don't dismiss it. I like, man, but but there was a Puerto Rican. Relax. Yes, there was a Puerto Rican. Looks like there's a Puerto Rican everywhere, right? But just because these two individuals, they collaborated with each other, once again, it's one of those beautiful things where Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, I believe that he passed away a little bit earlier than Carter Woodson. I think that he was a little bit sick and so on and so forth. So they dedicated themselves to make sure that they have this where people can go, let's say, to Harlem, to the research culture. And there's even online. And now that you're listening to me, you could go up, drop the links here. Is that it's beautiful to know these cultures because there's beautiful men from that time where there was segregation, and probably lynching was still a thing back in the 10s and the 1920s, 30s, whatever. They still put in that work. And, for let's say in the case of Arturo Alfonso Schomburg, who built basically a library. You're going to start seeing, because again, our history is beautiful. Black history is beautiful. And I'm hoping to bring a little bit more of the Black, because there's a lot of Black inventors, a lot of products out there that you'll be like, But again, hey, listen, and even sometimes too, there is grifting in the Black community. Hey, listen, I'm one to call it out. I'm not trying to be like, I'm not trying to be insensitive. I think somebody was making fun of someone who said, Black people created hockey and so on, but then to come and find out that there was a group of Black men in Canada that did embrace hockey and might have turned it into maybe something more modern, but it doesn't mean that they invented hockey. There's a commercial, I remember there was a commercial out there where I think they were knocking on America, where it's like, America invented this, but we made it better, right? And this is like the companies, let's say the Sonys, from Japan, Samsung from Korea, where you got this TV from United States, Westinghouse. I don't even think that exists, but they made it better. Again, that division, relax, we get it. But just the same as certain culture, certain things that Black people invented, sometimes Black people made it better. That is true. And just as Puerto Ricans were there as well. But we making it happen. I'm glad that people listen to this podcast. Because again, we got a little bit of a little asopao, as we call it, a little bit of stew of a little bit of everything. I just wanted to point people out, and just to make sure that we know now who's Arturo Alfonso Schomburg. If you're in New York City, most likely you have heard the name because of the library. But sadly, when it comes to Black History Month, we kind of don't talk more about, the individuals and the individual, Carter Woodson, behind this whole thing. We could engage and go on and quote, because, there's a lot of these Black scholars that we need to know, because trust me, a lot of these folks just put in work. A lot of these men and women, they put in work so we could know where we came from. So that someone don't come and tell you, bro, you don't got no history because, let's say, you came from the slave or short slave, or you came from Puerto Rico, where United States, sees you as a colony and a military base or something. Just because they already label you some type of title, don't mean that there was no history. There is. It's always beautiful. It's always righteous. Let's make it happen. Woo! So once again, Arturo Alfonso Schomburg and Carter Woodson is what we studied today, what you learned today. Put in some work to get to know more of these individuals. And, Schomburg from Puerto Rico, born in Puerto Rico and passed away here in New York City. There's some parallels with me and him. So we'll talk about that. But make it happen. Hope you enjoy. Once again, hit the like, share, all that good stuff. Because we making it happen. We staying legendary. And I'm out of here. Peace. Enjoy the podcast. Once again, subscribe. You already know. Make it happen. I'm out. Peace.